I think most of us generally know why we get together and do this event once a week on a Sunday. It's a 30-minute event tonight. Yeah, basically this is where we get together, or one of the events we get together at, to talk about making spaces. Shout out to Lisa, who has an event on Saturday night now as well. Maybe not night for all of you guys, but it's night for me. Space making for beginners. Basically this is a place to come and ask any questions you like. Have me explain pretty much anything, right? It's usually on the topic of making spaces or sometimes avatars, but honestly, I'll take a stab at answering any questions that you want to ask me. Go ahead, Schmeg. Have you got a question?
Oh, our fearless leader, Lord Shane.
Oh, no.
How may I get the lightning power?
You just have to make a space and then convince people to go into it and then electrocute them. That's how it works.
Yes.
That's all you got to do. One by one. Convince them all in. Funnel them into some sort of a gauntlet, maybe? And then just bring down the smite upon them. That's what we call that internally. That's what it's known as, the smiter. We're not very religious.
You hear that?
You know, it seemed like the right thing to call it.
What you're asking for is basically a cheap version of Mjolnir, then, basically.
He's talking. Sweet.
No, I'm interested to hear how that was going to go.
It's just like Thor's hammer.
I'm sorry, Shane.
I saw all the movies. Big fan.
Nice.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, we're maybe going to do a couple of other versions. We've talked about some. One that I particularly like is the idea of a bubble, right? You just put somebody into a bubble and then you can only hear them mumble and they just float away until they eventually get kicked from the space. I think that... Yeah, right? The foot just drops straight down, squishes them or kicks them out. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's definitely lots of ideas, right? Yeah, sorry, go ahead. Three-Eyed Tiger, what can I do you for?
Is there an upper limit on the head growth? Because I was using a PC client yesterday while I was doing a bit of world building, and let's just say I left the character staring at a mirror while I was doing some other stuff for a couple hours. I came back and whoa, huge hairs. It was all true. So is there an upper limit on how big that head can get?
No. In fact, that's a challenge right there to all of you. Go for it. Let's see who can get a big enough head to take the entire platform down. Let's do it. Yeah, genuinely forgot about that. God, there's so many crazy things we've done in the last 6 weeks that I genuinely forgot about that until you said. But yeah, for anybody who's interested, there's some new, cooler, functional mirrors, but they've got a little secret built into them that if you spend too much time in front of them, your head will slowly get bigger. And suffice it to say, it takes twice as long to go back to normal. So everybody else is going to know what you've been up to. Yeah, that's how we combat the platform becoming VR chat overnight. But yeah. Anyway, so typically how this works, we've got a podium here for anyone who's unfamiliar. You can make your way up. Put a question to me. I'll be more than happy to answer it. Sometimes we get the occasional question in from YouTube, although I don't know if there's many on the stream tonight. And then if there isn't, yeah? You going to say something, Shiseki? 2 people. Nice. Well, ask them if they got any questions. And if they don't, tell them they're dead to us. Get out of here. If they're going to come and enjoy it, get into VR. Come on, let's do it. Hey, Discord Kitty, what can I do you for?
Hi. One of the people watching is Zed. He asked me to ask, is there going to be a way to use the Oculus controller to trigger visual scripts?
Use the Oculus controller to trigger visual scripts. I assume he means get access to like the buttons and be able to do different things with the buttons. Yeah, I mean, that's something I can probably talk about. at reasonable length. I mean, first of all, I think you can already access the buttons, assuming that isn't broken with the recent update. But you should already be able to access the buttons of the controllers. You should also be able to lock and unlock the player. And what that does is it stops their joysticks and other buttons being used for things like teleport and whatever else. And you can take over said buttons, use them for whatever purposes you want. But we've actually been working on this system internally, and Naheem has been working on something that he calls triggers, right? Quite simply, the idea is that you could have an object that you pick up into your hand, and then while it's in your hand, it kind of overrides your buttons in that hand, right? It's like it passes through those button functions to the object that you're holding. And that can actually be quite powerful, right? With just access to the trigger buttons alone, you could very easily throw together a gun that can shoot, or some other object you can hold in your hand that when you pull the trigger, maybe it applies a force. So you've got, guns that can make you fly, or I don't know, who knows, right? This is the mind of Naheem. There's lots of crazy stuff in there. Don't you worry, we're gonna let it all out. But yeah, basically, the idea of being able to easily access the buttons on the controller, and especially within the context of holding an object, is something that we are working on internally. In fact, is already possible, right? I don't know, some of you, Hubber, I know you put a video up in Bant Snaps of flexa.bant.ing, that new space where you've got the gun and the bullets, the physics particles. That's using the trigger system, right? So quite simply, it's just hooking together a few things to make that work. There's actually going to be some new components added to the SDK fairly soon, things that are going to open up all of this new grabbing capability, right? So you're going to have different types of grabs you're going to be able to set up. You're going to be able to set up other things like world objects. You're going to be able to then combine those with things like, attached objects, synced objects, all that kind of stuff that can really rip the lid off of it. But yeah, I think stuff like that makes a lot of sense, right? It makes it really super easy to throw together some functional, interactable objects, right? And then you're kind of one step removed at that point from being able to actually create some sort of a gamified experience out of that, But yeah, go ahead, MJ. I can see your... what can I do you for? Oh, you fell off.
Platform's slippy. Apparently. Either that or something doesn't like me being on this platform.
Well, technically the rule is if you slip off, you have to go and wait in the naughty corner for 20 minutes. But I'll let you go. Go ahead.
Alright. So, with the current SDK2, are there ways of detecting when Banter's ready from the Unity visual scripting side of things? And is it possible to detect if a player hits a trigger from the Unity visual scripting sides of things? 'Cause I've been digging into the nodes and I can't seem to find a way of getting either event working properly.
Gotcha. Well, as far as I know, as long as you've got some kind of collider on the object and that collider is marked as a trigger, then in the node graph, you can just add an on-trigger enter event. Now, Aline can maybe jump in there when it comes to visual scripting questions because it's not my area, but I think that information is correct. You should be able to just add an on-trigger enter event and boom, right? You've got triggers. To your other question, there's a couple of events that you can listen to. There's on scene loaded, which is when it starts to actually, when it's decided there's objects in the scene, I'm now going to start to load everything up. There's also on Unity loaded, which is the other end of that, when everything is finished, everything is downloaded, instantiated, all that stuff. But at that point, the visual scripting stuff could still be initializing in the background. I think if you really want to know visual scripting is up and ready, you probably want to use the injection nodes to send a message back to JavaScript to tell it visual scripting is now up and ready to go. So that's probably the best idea. That injection stuff is super powerful. You can inject a whole big blob of JavaScript at the start, and then you can send little snippets of JavaScript back and forth, and you can pretty much map any functionality from the browser through to visual scripting, right? Which is I think probably the most powerful combination. We're also working on a more, a more sort of straightforward way to just send messages back and forth, right, between the two of them. Right now, you've got to kind of wrap it up in an injection script, but in the future, you'll be able to just very easily set up something like an observable and be able to just publish and subscribe to messages on either side. So I hope that answers your question.
I can work it out from the info. Cheers.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Okay, from Dead Zed. WTF? Well, I mean, an avatar is just an asset, right? So it's pretty easy to pull those into your scene. You can do that probably most conveniently as an FBX format. So if you're in Blender and you're working with a GLB from, let's say, Ready Player Me or from Banter itself, then you can convert it to an FBX, at which point you can pull it into your scene and work with it like any other asset, put animations on it, have them run, have them triggered. I'm sure a lot of you saw we had the Richard Iowati impersonating the foot in the Crystal Lake, and it's in the welcome space as well. If any of you haven't seen that, I encourage you to go and check that out. That's quite entertaining. Welcome.bant.ing. And kudos to Aline, who put a shit ton of work in there polishing off our new user space, right? But it's done pretty much the same. It's pre-recorded animations, actually using Unity's timeline just to pull all of that together. So you've got sounds and animations and stuff like that that all work together. Aline, stop me if I'm saying anything crazy here, but I'm kind of speaking on your behalf. I'll assume that's all correct if Aline's got nothing to say, or she's muted. Perfect. There we go. Right on the first attempt. I love it. Was that it, Shoseki? Any other questions? Nice. Let's see. Okay, well, we've nobody on the podium, so I guess this is my time to waffle. What was I working on today? Today, I was looking at on-screen controls for a mobile client, right? So that's something I've been promising for a while, and I've always said the new menu is really the main blocker there, and now that the new menu is out, that blocker is removed. So I'm looking at on-screen controls, I'm looking at on-screen joysticks and buttons and stuff to be able to move your character around. Still trying to work out the kinks. I'm sure there's going to be a couple of loose ends there that we need to try and tie up. But yeah, the hope is to get a mobile client out onto the Google Play Store to begin with. iOS is going to be a bit down the line. Android was quite easy because all these headsets use Android as well, so it translated quite nicely. Some of you may have noticed since the update, if you did use our previous Android APK for 2D mode, that no longer works. The app has bridged the gap in terms of OpenXR. In fact, I mentioned this in the Discord, but I think we are possibly the first and only VR application with an APK that works across multiple devices, right? That's something that previous to the current release that we're on wasn't actually possible or wasn't easily possible, but now it is. We're using something called OpenXR. We're using it against the will of Meta and Pico, who both specifically want you to do all this extra boilerplate stuff to make their thing unique, and then you've got to have twice as much stuff to do all the stuff, and you've got to do it twice, and you've got to do one for them and one for the other. Kind of flies in the face of what these universal standards are kind of supposed to be there for. So kudos to Mike, who's not here, but Mike, who maintains OpenBrush, if anybody's familiar with that app, and a number of other things. And he discovered a method to basically bypass all of the unnecessary platform-specific boilerplate, making it possible for us to make a single Android app that can work on any VR headset that supports OpenXR. which is honestly kind of crazy, right? I don't know. We're excited about that internally. That's a standard that has been in the making for God knows how many years, and I feel like this is possibly the first time that it's ever been applied in a universal way, right? Where it actually takes advantage of that, universal nature. So anyway, long story short, in prioritizing an app that can work on any OpenXR based device, we've also made it possible for that app to not work on a normal mobile phone, right? At least in its current configuration. So now we have to bring that build configuration back. Now it's going to be a dedicated build configuration just for the mobile client, right? So that's, I guess that's what happens. But yeah, I have been working on it today. I can tell you that it does work once we disable all of that extra OpenXR stuff. It works just fine on mobile. So once I can get these on-screen controls worked out, I think what I'll likely do is also try and sneak in gamepad support while I'm at it. It's probably going to be a free benefit for PC VR mode too. So if you're using 2D mode on PC, you can look forward to having at least limited controller support coming forward, right? Things like being able to navigate through the menu, being able to move around just using your controller and stuff. That's going to be tricky, right? Because we're going to have to come up with something that can handle all of that different tab-based navigation, focusing on different elements. But not entirely impossible. The easier solution in the short term is just to make an Xbox or a PlayStation controller work much like your VR controllers, right? So that you can just move around and jump and teleport and Spider-Man and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, while I'm at it, I'm building out an interface for these controls on the on-screen version of the app. It makes sense to sort of kill two birds with one stone and to throw in those gamepad controls as well. So yeah, other than that, kudos to everybody and anybody who's been submitting bugs and details of bugs. You might have noticed the upload logs section in the menu has now been replaced with a fully fledged bug report, right? Where you can type in a full message, which gives us a lot more information to be able to investigate those bugs, which honestly means that we're going to be on a much better footing going forward. Right now, I'm in the process of formulating a little bit of structure inside for how we're going to triage any issues that are identified, bring them into the fold, ensure that they end up on a list with, some sort of a prioritized importance. So at some point, they're definitely going to get looked at, and probably pretty quickly if we can identify them. So once again, kudos to anybody who's been submitting bug reports. Please continue to submit any more. We want to get the app as polished as possible before we really ramp up with marketing and promotions and all of that sort of stuff. But yeah, thank you so much for that. One other thing I'll mention while I'm on the topic, some of you might have realized a few weeks back we announced our new knowledge base / service desk. What I will probably be doing in the near future is trying to consolidate all of the channels of information. Our service desk has got this integrated knowledge base, so it does this great thing where it suggests solutions as you're submitting a service ticket, right? So what's great about that is you might find the answer before you have to wait for one of us to come back to you. So what we're likely going to do is take some of the sections on the Discord, like the support and the ideas and stuff like that, get all the information and bring it into our internal ticketing system, and then probably lock those and redirect everybody into the new service desk. So you've got better tools, right, to be able to fill it out. Discord, honestly, is pretty cool. I've used it for support for a number of years. It can be really difficult in some situations. It presents a lot of barriers itself. The forum solution that was there really helped quite a lot, but there's still better tools out there, right? And that's what we want to do. We want to get to a point where we can, answer you guys as promptly as possible, deal with the issues that you come across, and just try to be making the overall experience as stable and as fluid as we possibly can. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Let's see, what else can I waffle about? squashing bugs has kind of been the biggest part of it for the last few days. But there's been a couple of features in there. I know one that a lot of people have asked for is the ability to control individual people's volume. So I implemented that yesterday, and there's one or two bugs that we need to work out with it, but you can expect that to be in the next build, right? You click on a person, it pops their name tag, and on there you'll see a little volume indicator and a little slider to be able to adjust their volume. You can boost their volume, right? You can boost it up to 500% if that's what you want, or you can reduce it or even silence them with the slider, right? You can go from 0 to 500%. I've actually done the same with the mic boost in the menu, believe it or not. So if your mic is for some reason too loud, even at 100%, you can actually drop it down, right down to 0% if that's what you want. And yeah, one fun thing about that is that the Visemes, right? We've all known these Visemes. They've been crazy these last few days. You know, you make enough noise out of your mic, your jaw's going to hit the floor, which is great. And we fixed that, but there's kind of a certain funniness that comes with it that we don't want to get rid of. So basically, if you boost somebody's volume, it's going to directly correlate to their mouth open Viseme. So if you crunch their volume up, their mouth is going to go like crazy, right? That's where we decided to land on that, right? So things should look pretty cool as standard, as normal, but if you ever want people to start looking fucked up, just crank that volume level and let's see how it goes, right? But yeah, let's see. I don't know. I don't think I have anything else to waffle about. And my controller's just died. That is great. Let me see. I'm just going to plug that in real quick. Awesome. Okay, right. Well, look, if nobody has any questions in the meantime, let's see. Maybe I'll call on Faye and get her to tell us about the ISS event that's coming up, because I think there could be a surprise at that. I think you're muted, Faye, if you're talking. No surprise. Can anyone hear Faye, or is it just me?
Nope.
Hello, can you hear me?
There
I'm
you
here.
go.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so confirmation, no surprise, but is anything different? The original that we were talking about? To confirm? Aline? Yes, no, maybe?
Aline's talking too, but doesn't realize she's muted. Oh, there will be stuff, people.
Here you
Stuff
are.
and
What were you
things.
saying? Okay, so there will be stuff and things. So yeah, Rocket Party. Come to Rocket Party. You can come early. We'll pop in there and everything after this event, and just go see. Awesome.
I think we might
Yes.
have the most impressive depiction of the International Space Station, possibly in all of virtual reality. Is that a fair thing to say, Aline? Do you think?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Stop me if I'm wrong, right? But about, a little time ago, maybe a couple of weeks ago, NASA released some really high fidelity models of the ISS, much higher than anything that was previously anything that was previously available. So Lean jumped on the opportunity, and now that's in the ISS space. So if anybody's interested and wants to crawl their way around it, there is some incredible detail in there. And there's lots of other cool additions added as well, like all the doors and other functionality. Oh,
It's true. It's true. There's a lot
freaking out.
of attention to detail, some things that have changed. It's really cool to see. So yeah, we'll pop in there after this. Yep.
I'm just going to do the rest of this from down here because my controller's dead and and I can't
I'll
move around.
use this. If
Nice.
I can. Woo!
Go for it. Yes. Yes. Sure. Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, the code is available. We haven't implemented a remix function, and actually, we probably won't. I think for a number of reasons. The remixes were cool, but there was really no link between the one that you remixed from and the new one that you've created. And what that honestly resulted in was having to do a lot of work to go around and find the spaces that we needed to update, right? Because things were just getting remixed left, right, and center without any link back to the upstream. So, I mean, I would say that, like everything on the internet, it's all plain text. You can just Control and U on your keyboard on any web page in the internet and see the source code, become an instant hacker. You can then right click, inspect element, start typing in something totally new, instant hacker. Take a screenshot of it, post it on the internet, try to pretend like it's real, and everyone knows it's not. You can do that, right? Long story short, you can do that with pretty much any web page. So you can always get a look at how something works or how it's done, or even copy some stuff out of it, right? And move it across. But yeah, the remixing system, unless, like I say, you've got almost a fully fledged version control system where you've got the ability to maintain that upstream link and that upstream connection. And until there's a real solid way to do that, then yeah, I'm not really too sure how to implement that without mitigating those other detrimental impacts of it, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'd say the best advice is just ask Aline. And, I would say 10 times out of 10, she'll just hand you the files, maybe even the source, right, for the space itself. Because what you'll see on the bant.ing space is going to be the compiled asset bundles, not the actual Unity source for the space. But yeah, if anybody needs anything or wants anything, by all means, feel free to ask. And yeah, I'm sure you'll find. Oh, I can move around. Nice. I'm going to do this for an extended period of time, and you guys are all going to just sit here and watch, because that's how it works. Oh, yes. One hand. Oh, yes. I fucking did it. Okay, now to not make my legs look weird. Yeah, nice. Right. Okay. Yeah, well, there we are. And that brings us up to the half hour, actually, right on the button. The ISS event, let's see. It is in an hour? Yeah, an hour from now. So, yeah, definitely stick around for that. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to get to see, you're going to get to see the ISS in all its glory detail. Maybe I'll hand over to Faye, and she can do an announcement of sorts. Go ahead, Faye, take it away. Or if you'd like to try and get up onto this thing, I can try and get off. Oh, there we go.
I'm really bad at this now. Whoa. Frick.
It's okay. We can all sit and watch.
Okay.
As long as it takes.
I'm up. Okay. Anyways, hi guys. Well, guess what? It's time for Member of the Month. So this month, we're thrilled to recognize Dead Zed for his remarkable contributions to the community. Known for his boundless curiosity and creative energy, he consistently goes above and beyond to support and inspire others. Many of you have had some help from him. He has insightful tutorials on Unity and Blender, and he empowers creators to keep creating. And he also has a new GitHub repository that allows people to drag and drop things into their spaces, which is pretty cool. Not drag and drop, but find things to drop into their spaces. But just want to say thank you, Dead Zed, for helping everybody always have information available to do really cool things with their avatars and their spaces and your kindness. So yay.
Kudos, Dead Zed. I swear I'm clapping here. My controller just died. So, yeah. Okay, guys. Listen. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm gonna jump out now. Yeah, I'll see you all tomorrow at the AMA if you're there. Hopefully from next week on, I think we're probably going to put this back to the hour length. So looking forward to that. And yeah, kudos to DeadZet. And thanks again to Sebek, our last member of the month. And yeah, thank you very much, guys. I will see you all later on.
Adios. Adios.
All right, let's portal over to the SpaceX. Do, 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 do.